so short and thin. When it is so tired, it drops and then I win. Oh, dreidel, 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 I made it out of clay. And when it's dry and ready, then dreidel I shall play. My dreidel always playful, it loves to dance and spin. A happy game of dreidel, come play now, let's begin. Oh, dreidel, 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 I made it out of clay. And when it's dry and ready, then dreidel I shall play. Oh, dreidel, 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 I made it out of clay. And when it's dry and ready, then dreidel I shall play. Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh. O'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. Bells on bobtail ring, making spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a sleighing song tonight. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. A day or two ago, I thought I'd take a ride, and soon Miss Fanny Bright was seated by my side. The horse was lean and lame, misfortune seemed his lot. He got into a drifted bank and then we got upset. Oh, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh.
that ere I've done, alas, it were to none but me. And all I've done, for want of wit, to memory now I can't recall. So fill to me the parting glass. Good night and joy go with you all. Oh, all the comrades that ere I had were sorry for my going away. And every sweetheart that ere I kissed would wish me one more day to stay. But since it falls unto my lot that I should go, and you should not, I'll rise and go, and softly call, good night and joy go with you all.
living substance. All substance of energy, being, and purpose are united and share the same destiny. All people, those we love and those we know not of, are united and share the same destiny. Birth to death, we share this unity with the sun, the earth, our brothers and sisters, our siblings, strangers, flowers of the field, snowflakes, volcanoes, and moonbeams, birth, life, death, unknown, known, unknown. Our destiny, from unknown to unknown. May we have the faith to accept this mystery and build upon its everlasting truth. We gather today because one we love has moved from known to unknown, from life to death. Tim Larason is no longer with us. He has moved to the unknown. While we remain here in what we know. On this occasion where we celebrate Tim's life and mourn his death, as one of the ministers of this church, I welcome you here to this place that meant so much to Tim and played such a significant role for him for 60 years. His death, in a way, hardly surprised us. His health has been uncertain since his wife Linda died 4 years ago, if not before. Yet he kept coming back. The comeback kid, his family said. Surviving because he had more life to live. Despite pain and neuropathy, his joy and positivity always shone. He was, and his family continues to be, tremendously grateful for the support from in-home caregivers who made his quality of life so high despite the deterioration of his body. No matter what it was that Tim wanted to do on any given day, his precious caretakers always figured out how to make it happen. So we gather in solidarity with those who loved Tim most, his sisters Ann and Linda, his daughter Amber, her husband James, Tim's granddaughters Maddie and Katie. So many people did love Tim, though, because Tim was lovable. He was so dang lovable. Kind and unassuming, he never raised his voice, yet so much was going on with him. A man of few words, many of them witty. Music surrounded him always, though he himself never produced it. He died listening to the Red Dirt Rangers, though he didn't make it to their show that night that he had tickets for. He was brilliant, the best tax lawyer in Oklahoma City, one of the first people around to have a personal computer, and he knew how to use it. His commitment to this church was above and beyond, serving as treasurer on the endowment board and offering his home in Heritage Hills with Linda for church gatherings. Tim was recognized as church treasurer, our highest honor at First Unitarian Church in 2005. He gave us little guidance for this service today, except the hymns. You are invited to rise in body or spirit and join in singing one of the hymns he requested, a hymn that at one time was sung every week as the processional into this sanctuary. Number 12, O life that maketh all things new.
Oh, life
Please be seated. I invite Ann Schneider, Tim's sister, and James Niblett forward to offer a reading.
Well, hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. Amber asked me to read a poem that I wrote. But you have to understand, I'm not a poet. Don't be confused about that. But I do occasionally write poems, and I actually did write this one. And James offered to be my backup, so when I start to cry, he'll pick it up. And then when he starts to cry, someone else will come forward to finish the poem with you. But we will try to read the whole poem all the way through. It's called An Ordinary Adventurous Life. And I wasn't thinking of Tim particularly when I wrote it, but after Amber asked me to read one, I went back looking and thought, wow, this poem really reflects the kind of person that Tim was. And let me start with a Mary Oliver line. Tell me, Mary Oliver writes, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Here's how I think Tim... Now, Chris, don't you start crying. Here's the way he might reply. Let me live an ordinary life, where any ordinary moment in any ordinary day becomes a memorable moment in an extraordinary day. Let me live an adventurous life with risks and thrills, where the aftertelling fills the ordinary with the extraordinary. An ordinary adventurous life, wanderer, wanderer, dreamer, drummer, and you, my friend, talk with me, sing to me, hold my hand, be my adventure for today. Over to you, James. Right there.
Watch with me the sun go down, the foothills turn from brown to red to brown again. Another memorable moment in another extraordinary day. And when that final wall comes down, let it show I lived with gusto, made ordinary moments into memorable moments, ordinary days into extraordinary days, waiting for, not afraid, curious about that one great final adventure, whatever it may be.
Thank you.
I invite you to join me in prayer or meditation, opening your hearts and minds to the holy in whatever way you experience it, as the spirit of love, the spirit of community, the life that maketh all things new, God. We gather in sorrow this day, mourning the death of Tim Larason. We trust the transforming power of love, your gift to us and to the universe. May the presence of that spirit be with us as we remember Tim. We're grateful for the life Tim lived, for the gifts he gave us of humor, of kindness, of a brilliant mind. Thankful for the lessons he has shared with us and the love he has offered to us, we commit ourselves to treasuring those memories and passing along the blessings he has given us. May the memories we have of him continue to bless our days. We are thankful, too, that we are not alone, but have one another for sustenance and comfort and to help us remember Tim. We're grateful for those who cared for Tim, who helped him live in quality until the end of his days. We regret whatever sorrow or suffering he experienced. On this day of loss and celebration, may we recall our own mortality and rediscover the full meaning of our fleeting pleasures and the depth of love we feel for others, until at length we grasp the great perspective of life, wherein we find the joy of living. On this Thanksgiving weekend, we are indeed thankful for Tim's time on this earth. If there remain for anyone words unsaid, debts unsettled, or forgiveness withheld, may we find a way to peace and reconciliation. Let us find a way to peace and wholeness in relation to Tim, in relation to one another, in relation to the world, and in relation to the holy. May Tim's spirit and blessings continue to dwell within each person here today. May we have the peace and reconciliation he would intend for us all. Spirit of life and love, offer comfort to those who feel bereaved by this loss as we console one another. And may his death bring us closer to one another, healing the wounds of human frailty and helping us realize the power and strength of the life that maketh all things new, of the Spirit of love. Amen.
I feel like I have to say, even though it may not be appropriate, that we do have the accordion out, and so please don't come any closer than the first row, because we still have not had an accordion-related incident, and we certainly don't want to start now. Be forgot and never brought to mind. Should old acquaintance be forgot and days of old lang syne, days of old lang syne. We too have beat about the braes and pulled the goals fire. We've wandered many a weary foot since days of old lang syne, days of old lang syne. And we have sported in the burn from morning sun till night, but seas between us broad have rolled since days Sun, days of old lang syne. So here's a hand, my trusty friend, and give us a hand of thine. We'll take a cup of kindness yet, for days of old lang syne, days of old lang syne. Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and days of old lang syne, days of old lang syne.
Isn't it wonderful to have this great music in Tim's honor? So, listening to most eulogies, it can sound like whoever is memorialized is exceptional. Tim truly was. From his earliest days on a farm in southwestern Oklahoma, he was remarkable. His sister Ann, 15 months younger, saw him as older and wiser. When he was only 4 years old, he taught her, his 3-year-old sister, how to read. Anne said, how did he know that those boring letters were the source of the story instead of the pictures? One time he was telling me a word in the Saturday Evening Post was helicopter. Same word in our storybook. Wow, how did he know that? As a child, he took things apart, put them back together, including a radio he rebuilt on a hillside with an antenna that Anne says could get reception in Russian. A real farm boy. By the age of 9, he was driving a tractor, and a year or two later, a self-propelled combine. Anne remembers him as protective, holding her hand to cross the street in Woodward. He kept that kindness and gentleness through his whole life. A law partner, Valerie Duvall, said, only one time did I hear him say anything bad about another person. That person really deserved it. One time in a lifetime ain't bad. He extended himself toward everyone, expressing curiosity about the lives of his caregivers and others he met. Reverend Julie Conradi credits him for her being a UU minister today because he was the first person in this church to greet her and remember her name. He took tremendous pride in the achievements of his family. His children, Amber and Todd, of course, and his support for his wife Linda's political career was unambiguous, grounded in the pride he had in her. He was her back office, creating the database for her mailing list and happily keeping the background in motion. Not every man can support his more public wife so comfortably. His own career was one that anyone could be proud of, though he stayed humble. Degrees in accounting, business, and law, but when asked how he chose his path in life, he answered that he didn't, that his path chose him. His law partner, Valerie, found that tremendously liberating. and maybe we can all find a lesson there. 3 times named best tax lawyer in Oklahoma City, Tim knew tax law backward and forward. Valerie said he knew every answer to every tax question mere mortals could ask off the top of his head. She cited a colleague who wondered how he ever billed any time since he never had to look anything up. At the same time, he used his knowledge and position to help others, setting up endowment and educational funds for charitable organizations and offering pro bono services to widows who couldn't afford tax bills their husbands left. But he wouldn't give his family free legal advice. His generosity with his time included mentoring others, giving back to his profession, and to the family and to all the people that he genuinely cared for. He loved his work, and when everyone retired from the Andrews Davis firm, he went on to work part-time with Valerie, even when he had to take an Uber to get there. The hospital nurse was astounded when she asked him when he had retired, and he replied, "Yesterday." His avocations helped others as well. For example, he set up the database that this church used for ages. One former treasurer called it the infamous database. Tim and Linda loved to share their home, to have family and friends use their pool, to host church socials. Generosity was a value, including Tim's knack for giving good gifts. Tim was so much more than tax law and computer databases, and most of all, music surrounded him, always. Music of all kinds, from classical to Red Dirt to Zydeco and New Orleans jazz to, yes, even Taylor Swift. Katie helped him learn to appreciate the Black Eyed Peas, and he had a special fondness for Fergie. And he'd go to any music festival anywhere, but especially Jazz Fest in New Orleans, which he was able to attend this past May with his companion Gail and caregivers. And he was always at Winfield. Every year, he and Linda would tour through Colorado, Silverton, Durango, and the Telluride Music Festival. And I've run into him more than once at the Woody Guthrie Festival in Okemah and at the Blue Door, which he frequented. And Tim could be found at Sean Cummings' Irish Pub most every Monday night. He and Linda would travel the country for music festivals. Linda loved to travel, Tim loved the music. She'd sit and read while he listened and struggled to keep the beat. He loved it. He was just not good at music. Though he did play a little saxophone as a child, he loved to have his granddaughters perform on their strings. "Just bring along the cello," he'd say, like that was easy. Tim and Linda made other trips as well to Europe, San Francisco, Padre Island, the Caymans. And like everyone, he had his tough moments in life. I don't know that he ever recovered from losing his son Todd, though he remained proud of him. And Linda's death in 2020 left him lonely. Still, he remained the optimistic, loving, active person he was. No grass grows under his feet, someone said, or his wheelchair. Tim's niece, Mary, called him a deep thinker without being showy, a lover of music, a gentle spirit who laughed easily and often and showed his love with incredible generosity. May we hold that gentle spirit in our hearts and let his memory inspire us to such kindness, generosity, humor, and love. And I invite Amber, Katie, and Maddie to share their remembrances.
Hi. First of all, I want to thank these musicians and the choir for being here. My dad loved music, but he loved these musicians most of all. Absolutely. So thank you so much. You made this very special. And when I would try to talk to him about his about this service. The only thing he wanted to talk about was the music. He also wanted some Zydeco players to come from New Orleans, but I couldn't make that happen. I'm sorry, Dad. Did my best. Okay, so my dad was known by a lot of names: super lawyer, old softy, eternal optimist, big pillow, the comeback kid, Energizer bunny, the potato man, I'll get to that later, margarita man, party animal, dear human, helpful friend, a good man, grandpa, true gentleman. Truly, Dad was the gentlest man I have ever known or will ever know. Also the most generous. The expression generous to a fault could have been coined with him in mind. He had a hard time saying no, which worked out great for me when I was a little girl. He just wanted everyone to be happy, and saying yes usually accomplished that. I never heard him say an unkind word about anyone. I bet most people in this room could say the same. Valerie's here, I guess maybe. Hey, Valerie, yeah, you heard him say something about someone. I want to find out who that is. Only kindness, only encouragement. His brain was a judgment-free zone. I only remember one instance in my entire life when he raised his voice at Todd or me. He couldn't find the TV remote, and it was time to watch Saturday Night Live. And we weren't helping him look for it, and he was getting very frustrated. And he yelled, "Help me look for it. Where is it? Help me look for it." And we were shocked. Dad was mad. Dad was yelling at us. We thought it was hilarious. We started laughing hysterically, like, what is happening? Which just made him more angry. And then he got it in his head that we were hiding the remote control for him, and that's why we were laughing, and then he getting more angry. Anyway, eventually we found the remote control in the middle of all of this. All was well. We settled down to watch Saturday Night Live, which was a weekly ritual that lasted into my teens. Some other good memories from my childhood. My mom and her friend Barbara Rice Gallivan took several camping trips together, brought all their kids and usually a few extra kids, in Barbara's giant red station wagon and my mom's orange VW camper bus. But the husbands usually stayed home. Almost always, I think, stayed home. Tim Larason and Jim Rice were both brilliant lawyers, but they weren't exactly rugged outdoorsmen. So they stayed home and the moms went camping. But I do remember Dad went at least one time, and I have a very vivid memory of him waking me up in the middle of the night and taking me outside to look at the night sky. He carried me because I was probably barefoot, and we just stood there together and stared at the Milky Way galaxy until I fell asleep on his shoulder. Sometimes when my parents were at a party and it was getting late and I was getting tired, I would crawl up into his lap and drift off to sleep as the grown-ups talked. I didn't always fall asleep, but I was good at pretending, and I just loved laying there on his big belly, feeling like the luckiest little girl in the world. Some of my earliest memories of my dad are sitting at his feet in the living room, listening to classical music or jazz or folk music. And he would read me the comic strips in the newspaper, or I would sit at his feet and help clean the tobacco out of his pipes. He stopped smoking when I was really young, but I still think of him instantly anytime I smell pipe tobacco. Growing up, all of my friends loved being at my house. It was a welcoming place, and my parents kind of collected extra kids who didn't necessarily feel accepted or supported at their own homes. They knew they could be themselves around my parents. And we had a really cool house and a pool, so that attracted a lot of kids too. That tradition continued into my adulthood as well. My daughters always brought their friends over to spend the night or to swim, and James and I hosted a lot of pool parties at their house, right up until we bought our own house with a pool. And my parents would sit outside, my dad especially, and he would read the mail. And every once in a while he'd take a dip and then read the mail some more. But taking a dip was there was this whole thing. He had to take out his hearing aids and put on his swim cap and put on his special shoes and do some stretches, and then take off his fanny pack, and then he would climb up onto the diving board and, like this, stretch, and everyone in the pool would stop what we were doing and start, yeah, Tim, go, yeah, Grandpa, woo, go. And he was, yes, and he would dive into the pool, big, huge splash, swim to the end, swim back to the ladder, crawl out, and go back to reading his mail. He'd do this over and over again. Every once in a while, he would forget to take off his fanny pack with his phone. And so he'd get up on the diving board, and we'd be like, no, fanny pack, no. And he's like, yeah, because he didn't have his hearing aids and he can't hear anything. And then he would jump in with his fanny pack and his wallet and all of his stuff, yeah. Anyway. So my friends got to know my parents pretty well, and they would often run into my dad out on the town at arts festivals or sitting in the music tent, at concerts, at happy hour. They'd send me selfies with him, and look who I ran into. And my dad never remembered their names, but he sometimes remembered their faces, but he was always happy to see them. Dad was a man of few words, especially later in life. He chose his words carefully, so everything he said seemed to carry extra weight, extra importance. We would wait as he slowly and deliberately formed his words, hoping to hear something profound, some real wisdom learned in his decades on Earth, and sometimes we got it, but more often than not, he would just crack a joke or say something silly to make us laugh. He laughed a lot. There was one example, where he always used more words than necessary, twice as many words as necessary. Whenever you asked, Dad, how are you doing? How's it going? How do you feel? He always replied, fine, fine. Always fine, fine. Never just one fine, always two, fine, fine. No matter how much pain he was in or uncomfortable he was because of all of his health problems, his answer never wavered, fine, fine. Dad spent a lot of time in and out of the hospital over the last few years, and as you can imagine, the nurses adored him. He was always sweet, always tolerant, no matter how much they poked and prodded him. His most recent hospital stay in July, the one that made him declare never again, no more hospitals. It was really awful, yet he was still so sweet to the poor nurses and aides who cared for him, even the nursing students at OU who sometimes had to do everything 4 or 5 times because they kept messing up. Once, in the middle of a particularly uncomfortable procedure, really miserable, he looked up at the pretty young nurse who had just spent 10 minutes unsuccessfully wrestling with his feeding tube and said to her in the sweetest voice, "Thanks for putting up with me." There was another hospital stay about 18 months ago when we nearly lost him after he aspirated while eating a baked potato, and he inhaled a large chunk of the potato down into his lungs. That event triggered a bunch of other issues, and he was very sick, barely lucid for about a week. And when he was finally in the clear and recovering and able to think straight, he couldn't remember why he had been brought to the hospital in the first place. And I was reminding him, explaining it to him, "You choked on a potato." He threw his head back and he laughed and he said, "Oh, it was a glorious potato." I think his positivity is what kept him going, even as his body failed him. There's still so much to learn, so much good music to listen to, so many good meals to eat, places to see, people to meet. The morning after he died, my husband James and I were laying in bed, trying to make sense of everything, trying to process and adjust to him being gone. And I asked James, "Where do you think his soul is right now?" And James said, "Probably in someone's birth canal." I think he's joking. I think he's being irreverent. But I keep coming back to that thought, and I just love it. Isn't that a nice thought? My dad has already been reborn. He gets to do it all over again. Truly the comeback kid.
Hi, I'm fine. Oh gosh, I did not type out all of my remarks like you guys did. I'm starting to regret that now. I'm not sure how to get through this. My grandfather, for as long as I can remember, has always been just such a constant in my life. In my memory, he looks almost exactly the same in my first memories of him as he did into the later years of his life. I mean, he has just always been old, but at least from my perspective. But I remember when I was a little kid, I loved going over to Grammy and Grandpa's house because they had a pool, could do whatever I want. They had a pantry full of Nutella, my favorite part. But also, Grandpa would always basically do whatever I asked. I'd asked him, do a jigsaw puzzle with me, or, oh, Grandpa, can we listen to this radio station? Or I remember he taught me how to play chess when I was really young, and I would just beg him just to play over and over and over and over again, and he played with me every single time, chess and checkers. He always spoiled me. I have a memory of, remember one time he took me to the Oklahoma Symphony. It was just me and him. And I had asked him to get me a giant chocolate bar, a giant caramel chocolate bar. So he bought it for me and he gave it to me and he said, now, you can't eat all of that. And I said, yes, I can. And he just laughed and I ate the whole thing and he never said anything else about it. But he was always, he loved to spoil me. He loved to see us happy. And he wanted the best for us in every possible scenario. More recently, just about a year or so ago, I had started my first big girl job after I graduated college. I was hired on to the Oklahoma Museum of Natural History, and something that was my dream job, my dream career. Thing was, though, I had gotten hired through a grant. So I was explaining to my grandfather, oh, this new job I have, this is what I do, but there's no possibility for promotion because it's a 2-year grant, and once the money runs out, there's no possibility for promotion or a raise. And he said, and I quote, "That's terrible. You should find a new job as soon as possible." Of course, he was just looking out for me. But there are so many things that he said that were so well-intentioned, but just so funny to the rest of us. I came out to my grandfather as gay about 2 years ago. I told him that I was dating my lovely partner, Elisif, who is non-binary. And I explained to my grandfather the best way that I possibly could, they, them pronouns. I said, they use, instead of she, her, they use they, them, they're going to do this or whatever. So he took it all in and he nodded. And the first thing that he said was, well, is them going to be your roommate? And from then on, every single time I saw him, if Elisif wasn't there, he'd say, well, when is them going to come see me? And he absolutely loved Elisif and was just so thrilled to see them every single time. The last time that I saw my grandfather, was about 2 weeks ago from today. I was in the process of moving to Albuquerque with my partner, and we'd had a mini crisis at our house, and our washer and dryer weren't working, and I had so much laundry to do. So I drove over to his house to do 6 loads of laundry. And I said, hi, Grandpa, I'm here. I hope it's okay. I'm here to use your washer and dryer. I'm going to do a bunch of laundry. I hope that's okay. And I wasn't quite sure if he had heard and understood what I had said. He kind of gave me a confused look and then turned to get the attention of his caregiver. And for the next 45 seconds or so, trying to get the attention of his caregiver, I thought, oh, he didn't hear what I said, he misinterpreted it or something. But I finally got their attention. He said, do we normally charge to use the washer? Oh my God, I just about died laughing. It took him a whole 45 seconds to get it out, but it was one of the best jokes. And that is how I will remember my grandfather, as somebody who was endlessly loving, endlessly kind and generous and giving, and would take every single opportunity to crack a joke, to say something witty. And I think that that's a great lesson that I'm going to take with me my entire life. So. Good job, Maddie. So my grandpa was a man of few words, and especially in his older days when I came around. But I remember I can always hear him breathing from the other room when I was over. But it was really comforting. He was a really comforting presence. And he was the type of guy where you could sit in silence with him. And that's rare. And sometimes we'd sit in silence while I challenged him in checkers, and he would always win. But when he did share words, at least to me, it would be thought out questions that he prepared. We'd be out at dinner, and he'd do this thing where he would pick one of us, and he would point at us. And everyone would fall silent and wait for him to say something. And a lot of times he would just say, "You." And that would be the end of it. And I'd go, "Oh, you." But other times he would point at me and he'd ask me, "Do you have any boyfriends?" Or he'd ask me if I saw the latest Taylor Swift performance. He always tried to appeal to my interests, no matter how far off they would be from his own. When I was a little girl, I really liked the band The Black Eyed Peas, as it was mentioned. And if you don't know who they are, their top hit was called Boom Boom Pow, if that gives you any idea. And because I liked them, he decided that he liked them too. So there are times that I'd go over to their house on the weekends, and he had recorded their live performance on some award show I knew nothing about, but for some reason, he did. And so we'd just sit in the red room and watch Fergalicious together. And he'd tap his foot to the beat, just like he would if he was listening to the Red Dirt Rangers. Mostly, I remember his smile, his laugh, and his contagious joy. I remember his array of bucket hats to protect his shiny bald head from the sun. I remember how much he enjoyed the outside air. I remember how he tapped his foot to his favorite music even when he was chained to the hospital bed. And I remember how he loved all of us with kindness and grace. Thank you.
We've had one quote from Mary Oliver, but there's never too much Mary Oliver. When Death Comes, by Mary Oliver. When death comes like the hungry bear in autumn, when death comes and takes all the bright coins from his purse to buy me and snaps the purse shut, when death comes like the mesopox, when death comes like an iceberg between the shoulder blades, I want to step through the door full of curiosity, wondering, what is it going to be like, that cottage of darkness? And therefore I look upon everything as a brotherhood and a sisterhood, and I look upon time as no more than an idea. And I consider eternity as another possibility. And I think of each life as a flower, as common as a field daisy, and as singular, and each name a comfortable music in the mouth, tending as all music does towards silence, and each body a lion of courage and something precious to the earth. When it's over, I want to say that all my life I was a bride married to amazement. I was the bridegroom, taking the world into my arms. When it's over, I don't want to wonder if I've made of my life something particular and real. I don't want to find myself sighing and frightened or full of argument. I don't want to end up simply having visited this world. Tim Larason did not simply visit this world. He lived it fully, soaking in its music, its beauty, its love. He approached it with curiosity and good humor. May we do the same. Our closing hymn is number 159, This Is My Song. Be seated. The life of Tim Larason has ended. Our memories and love for him never will. He's gone. That is the hard part. We do not have him here any longer. Not one more Jazz Fest. Not one more Monday at Sean Cummings' Irish Pub. Tim will be missed. Whatever we wish to say to him, we can say now only in our hearts. Whatever we wish to share with him, we can share only with one another. Whatever we have learned, we keep. Whatever we remember remains and lives on. The dawn keeps coming, the memories refuse to fade. May we find comfort in the memories and sustenance in the love. May we live on, passing the flame he bequeathed us. May Tim Manuel Larason's life and memory be blessed. May we all find blessings in what we take from him, his curiosity, his kindness, his wit, his commitment to the good. May Tim's spirit blaze on in our hearts and minds. Let us grant him eternal life by carrying his spirit with us from this day forth. So may it be. Amen.